Welcome to the Third Side Convo with your host, Bob Phipps. Your panelists today are Ted Johnson, Donald Thomas, Larry Haber, and this ain't right, Joe Boy, and now your host, Bob Phipps.
Well, Joe Boy, we just can't shut a good man down. You know, we got to have you on every now and then because Joe Boy's always been behind the scenes. Welcome to the Third Side Convo. Now, we're going to be talking about something that is often considered the third rail of American politics. Now, the third rail basically represents the rail of a railroad station that's electrified. So you can be electrocuted if you touch that third rail. Well, Social Security has long been considered the third rail of American politics because no one wants to bring it up. Now you got pictures of little old ladies being pushed off of cliffs, let's say. Now, Ted Johnson, one of our panelists, is actually going to explain what his proposal is. But I've also, got to speak with a lot of young people, and a bunch of young people feel that, they believe more in UFOs than they believe in Social Security being there when they get there. So Social Security is one of those things. What is it? Is it a retirement plan? Is it an income distribution? I'm going to go on and actually go to Ted right now because he's the one that came up with the proposal for discussion today. So, Ted, just jump right in.
Thanks, Bob. Well, it gets me thinking about young kids don't think about Social Security. That's 40 years from now, and that's forever to them. But to many, Social Security is a safety net. My question, though, is with the growth of great wealth among certain people, for example, there are 8 million billionaires in America. There are 20 million millionaires in America. And do these people really need Social Security? I mean, they could get by without it, but yes, they do earn it. They pay into it. They have every right to get it back. I understand that, but should they, or can they give it back? And that's the question I think that opens up. If you have an adjusted gross income, as we all know, after all your assets and all your depreciations are taken off and everything, and you have an adjusted gross income of what, 400,000, 800,000, maybe you don't get Social Security benefits. And I think that's where the discussion starts.
Well, and I think it's a valid discussion in that something is going to have to change because when Social Security was instituted back in the 30s, there were 36 workers for every one retiree. It is now currently 2.8 workers for every retiree and is going to go down to very close to 2 in right about 10 years. So, but the funny thing about it being that third rail again, can't be touched. Larry, can we actually touch something? Can we admit that the scheme that we're using for Social Security possibly might need to be adjusted at some point? Larry.
I don't think it needs to be adjusted the way Don and Ted are looking at it. I think we have a system that was originally granted for people that were retiring. We now spend a hell of a lot of money in Social Security, for example, for other things. Disability was not a Social Security function, for example. It was thrown on there. There are so many things that Social Security pays for now that wasn't part of a worker's wages. One of the things that I think makes a difference is raising the age. We're living longer. So I'm 66 now. I didn't get my Social Security at 65. In the full sense. If I want to wait, I could wait till 70, or I could get almost full sense at 66 and 2/3. Somebody born 10, 15 years before me would have had it at 65. So Social Security is doing the things it needs to do to get itself straightened out. But the fact is, this country is always going after rich people's money. And I don't think, one, there's enough of that money around. And two, why should they? People have paid in. Enough is enough already.
Don, would you like to be one of those that actually could just voluntarily give up your Social Security?
If I was a billionaire and millionaire where I didn't need the money, I would give it up or designate it to somebody else. And Larry is right about one thing. I'm kind of jumping the thing about agreement. Yeah, because this Social Security for disabilities and everything else wasn't in the plans. And I see a lot of people trying to beat the system. I work for the government, TSA. I see people for the slightest elbow, I can get disability and go on disability and retire. So it is an abusive form of some people abusing the SSI. But I'm right the age. I'm 62, and I'm contemplating: should I get it now or should I wait? Right now, I don't need it because I'm still on payroll with a company, so it is a touchy situation.
Yeah, unfortunately, the government would actually like you to die before you get it. Then it could go back into the system. Joe Boy, what are your opening thoughts?
I'm not dying. I'm going to last as long as I can. Now, when I was 15 years old, you promised you're going to take my money without my permission and force me to put into retirement because you know better than I do how to spend my money. Go ahead. You took my money. Now you want to take it away because I'm successful? I'm sorry. I am reinvested into myself and I didn't buy beer and spend it on beer and women. I reinvested in myself and made more money. Should I be penalized for doing something good? I'm sorry. I just don't see taking away my money because, I did better than other people.
I'm not so sure. I'm pretty sure about the beer thing. He's right. I'm not sure about the women thing. Ted?
Well, the fact of the matter is,
you're a billionaire.
What we're talking about is underlying this is a great big gap between the super wealthy and everyone else. When you have 8 billion billionaires, 8 million billionaires own 50% of the wealth in the country, that's where some of the issues lie. Do those people really need that money, and should they get the money? Now, Joe Boy's absolutely right. You pay into it. You deserve every right for it. The government has never said never even said that you're going to take it away from someone. I just offered as a proposal as one solution to the issue.
And it's probably, there's only two things you can do, right? You've either got to expand how long it is that you get it. So in other words, which they've done, as Larry said, or you've got to decide some people don't get it or something, or we've got to raise the taxes.
How about stop taking stuff out of it?
All right, let me ask a question here. Where do you get the number of billionaires? I'm just looking it up right now, and it says there are 150 billionaires in this country, not 8 million.
Oh, I'm sorry. I might hang on for a second. That's a good question.
He said about
hello.
He
if I
misquoted.
take the money from 813 billionaires, I might have enough to buy half of a vehicle.
Yeah,
he did a politician.
It must be true.
You did a politician quote.
I can't wait till we can hire a fact checker, and we'll just assign one to
you're
Ted
right. I'm sorry.
and to Joe Boy.
Actually, real quick, Larry, you're absolutely right. I misread that completely. It was 813 billionaires. You're absolutely right.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I knew you were wrong on that. I didn't want to correct you.
Thanks for catching that.
I was thinking the same thing a little bit.
Well, but that kind of does make a difference, obviously, because if you're only getting Social Security back from 813 people, well, what next can we steal from them? That type thing.
Well,
it's the 22 other millionaires as well. I mean, like I said, back to the adjusted gross income. What about how many people above 600,000 or 500,000 on AGI? Yeah. How many people is that?
But aren't they only limiting how much they can pull out? I thought you only put into Social Security up to like 180,000, and when you get more than 180,000, you don't get any more of your Social Security on the backside.
Is that how it works, Bob?
Yeah, it does. There's a limit at which you have to pay in, which is going way up. It is now somewhere in like 180. Hell, back when I was a kid, back when I first started working, it was like 35,000 or something like that you only had to pay on your first 35
they didn't
wages.
have Social Security when you were young, Bob.
What's that? Well, I was at least paying into it. How's that?
Bob, don't lie.
Yeah,
Bob,
when I was working in Fairway Markets as a bag boy, when I was 15 years old, I was paying into Social Security.
Bob, you were there when FDR signed the legislation, weren't you?
No, I wasn't quite. I missed that. I was there with the atomic bomb, but what the hell, huh?
Bob was pushing him around the wheelchair.
Doesn't any billionaire have the right to voluntarily pay more tax if they want to right now? Can't they just?
Of course.
Okay. So we already.
But the flip side is, Joe Boy, the flip side is the millionaires, the high income people, they have all the best financial advisors, aka Mr. Phipps over there, and they know how to take advantage of all the tax rules, the tax breaks, the depreciation rules. So something that a lot of these people, the rest of us, don't have the ability or the money to even think about doing things like that.
But they're allowed to put
they're allowed,
money
absolutely.
Right? So why don't they just do that then, since it's already what you want?
Wealth, Ted, in this economy, that's why you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
If you create wealth, then you have depreciation and expenses and employees
Absolutely,
and
I
all
know.
sorts of stuff. If you don't create wealth, you don't have any of those, and there's nothing for you to do except go to Bob and have him do your taxes every year.
Right.
He's too
Well,
expensive.
The other part of
another
the Social
story.
Security part is if I want to speak for the small man who's collecting it, is there certain rules that certain people, if they are on it, they can only make so much money. If they go over, if they want to do a side job or anything, they get penalized because they're working to try to make the Social Security go further, because Social Security doesn't go far. So you got to make some extra money. So right now, so they're penalizing people who are making more than $20,000 extra, which is nothing.
And do you know that that's a recent invention? That wasn't how Social Security started.
Supposed to work, exactly.
Yeah, I think it was the early '80s is when it changed. Before that, you could take all the Social Security you wanted and not have it count towards income tax, regardless of your income.
Right.
Yeah.
So
and now we're
made a
taxed
lot of
on it.
changes.
Yeah. The biggest problem is, and we've got to go and get to a break, but the biggest problem is that apparently for a third of the country, retirees, 90% of their income is Social Security. For 2/3 of the workers, it is 2/3. It is basically over 50% of their income. So we'll be right back with a word from our sponsors, and we'll talk more about Social Security.
Corona Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
You know, the great thing about Third Side Convo is we're not pretty much afraid to talk about much anything. And, you know, Social Security can't even be talked about in the Congress. The first person that brings it up, in fact, the West Wing had a great episode where Toby tried to get Social Security, tried to talk about it because there's things that need to happen. So let's go around now and see, what do you think? I mean, it's got to be tweaked somewhere. Larry, where do you see that might be a way to tweak it so that we can try to save it a little bit?
The way to tweak it is to slowly increase the retirement age, as we've been doing, because people are living longer. I am still working full time. I plan on working full time for quite a while. Right. I have assets that could not at this point in time, because I spend a lot of money. I'm not a millionaire. I'm a lawyer, and I should be a millionaire at this point, but I'm not. It all depends on people's where they spend money and stuff. Ted, for example, do you own your house in California?
No, I do not.
Okay. If you did, you'd be a millionaire where you live.
Absolutely. And as an asset. Absolutely.
As an asset. But when you say there are 22 million millionaires in this country, I get it, but probably 20 million of those are millionaires because of their homes. And so taking money away from them from Social Security is going to hurt them, even though they're, quote, millionaires.
It's a very good point. The other thing to think about, though, is 20 millionaires. What would the maximum if they get it 70? I think they would get maybe $35,000 to $4,000 a month times 12 months. If they abdicated their money, that's almost $1 billion. Now, could that $1 billion be repurposed toward lower income people who are barely getting by? That's one of the things I'm just asking. It's a total socialistic move. Absolutely. But
Thank you.
Social Security, but is anything more socialist than Social Security and Medicare?
All right.
Well, if you pay for it, which I've done in Social Security taxes my whole life and Medicare taxes, if it doesn't cover all of what actuaries say I'm going to be needing, then you redo the actuarial tables or you increase what you bring in. Very simple. But just to say, because I make money, I'm going to give up some of that to the government to give to other people, enough already.
Absolutely. I understand, Larry, completely. I mean, it's like reaching in your pocket and taking money out of your wallet. I understand that completely. I think it's going to come down to more of a public relations or even a moral issue. I think, like, for example, in Norway, if you made $20 million a year, they'd almost look down on you because they know you don't think you need that much. Why would you make that much money?
But they can voluntarily give right now. So
why you need $20 billion a
say
year?
You need to voluntarily give is kind of stupid. If we can voluntarily give any tax you want, just write a check to the IRS and pay them extra tax. We can do that now. You can go and ask all the millionaires all you want and see how many does it.
Yeah, well, it's just like going to church, Joe boy. A donation to the church, is that not a tax? It's voluntary, but it can be seen as a tax. You get a tax deduction for it.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I think
absolutely, it's a moral or public opinion issue.
Okay.
I think the people that paid into the system will have right now what the world is today of all the investments and all the stock market, that you are allowed to take like 50% of that money and you can invest it any way you want, that you can get to a certain point that you can invest part of it.
We tried that under Bush and it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, so I would think that, because right now, because the regular Social Security money that's coming in for people, they can barely afford it. So they would have to like look and see how can I spend some of that money that I got entitled to me. So I have an opportunity to get 50% of my money and do what I want with it, and the other 50% comes in.
The only solution I can see is if we actually took the money that someone put in and had their account, an IRA, whatever, since it's a forced retirement program where they're taking it from me without my permission, they're making me do it, then put it in a fund for me. And if I die, instead of the money, the government going, yee, they died, we can spend it, instead goes to their children or their family and gets put in their retirement fund. So that the more you work, the more it helps develop what you did. And if you spend your money badly, then that's your fault. If you spend your money wisely, then you get to benefit from it. I don't see why that's a problem.
But you can do that now anyway. You could take that money and put it away in a trust fund, or some of that money into a trust fund. Your spouse gets it. Your spouse gets it.
Hey, Joe boy, it's time to get Larry out of jail.
He's out of jail now.
Get Larry out of jail because Larry brought up a good point, which is that was something that got shot down about 25 years ago when somebody said, well, why don't we develop a program? Because here's what I know. The reason that 1/3 of the people have nothing to live on but Social Security is probably as much to do with circumstances and poor spending habits over their lifetime, right? I mean, let's be honest, all right? And so what we wanted to do is let's take out a little more, but it actually goes to you and can be passed on to your heirs because Social Security can't be passed on beyond your widow, beyond your marital person.
Right. Yeah. Why can't your children get some of that? At least.
Yeah, give some to your kids.
Right.
They're right.
So that was a good idea. Don, what do you see as a way possibly to save it? Where do you see? Larry says we ought to probably continue to gradually raise the retirement age.
Yeah, me and Larry's kind of got a good agreement going there. Is raise the retirement age, but also look to do more in depth to say where's that more. How did you get your money? Is your money where you were working? Did you do all the stuff you need to do to work? Look at your work record and say, hey, look, to expand on that part, to look at people in the past, because I got people in the past that they hardly work and they're getting Social Security. I said, how's that happen? To actually do more in depth on people, how they work and make sure their money's coming in legitly, So,
well, if I'm not sure, it seems like those dreaded Republicans have even claimed that the illegal immigrants are able to get Social Security even though they haven't paid in. I know that happens over in the welfare state over in Europe. I do know that it happens. It's not necessarily based on what they paid in.
I have a better story than that, Bob, regarding a man he ran a business, plaster business, like he plastered buildings, Taco Bells or strip malls and everything. And one of their hirings, obviously immigrant, came in, gave him a false Social Security number, and they alerted the Social Security agency about it. And guess what? There are millions of workers in this country who are paying into Social Security who will never see it because that's how they get the job. So the Social Security agency has a bunch of money, it may be billions.
Out there, exactly.
That's already been paid into that's not going to go anywhere.
The statistics are that illegals pay more money into Social Security than they get out.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if you want to fight over whether or not they're taking money from us, which you hear all the time from a lot of people, that's absolutely not the case.
It's
That's
not
absolutely
true.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It-
it
it-
probably
it's
is, though,
not
over
true.
in the UK and over in Europe, because they're on a different welfare system over there than merely Social Security.
Yeah,
Could be.
because
Could be. No, but this is fascinating. Look, like I said, isn't it amazing, though, that our government can't sit and have this conversation and talk about it? They avoid it like the plague. It is absolutely ridiculous. So after the show, we're going to be talking about giving money to people and how well does that work generally. So hold your horses. We'll be right back. And make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Facebook, and we will see you in a few moments. Be right back.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today, and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad, my computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810. The Typia Show would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures for being one of our sponsors. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator rights. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now. Get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com.
All right, let's talk about the other side of Ted's proposal, and Ted always comes up with great things, and he's almost always able to defend them, which is the greatest thing about this show. I've never been challenged so much as trying to get in an email exchange with Ted, because he's a writer, and he can throw so much stuff out there. Larry, of course, on the other hand, just throws one small sentence on, but Ted, now we're going to take this money and we're going to redistribute it to people based on what? Based on need, I guess, right?
Absolutely. And who does it? Probably the Social Security Administration. I mean, but again, it's more of the quagmire of the bureaucracy is going to have to get involved. How efficient does it become? How much fraud gets involved? Oh, I'm sure all those issues are going to come up. But I think the intention for the most part, I think, is going to be good. I think this is an 80-20 issue. 20% of it will be screwed up or fraudulently sent. 80% of it to a lower income will actually help and make people's lives better. I think it's an 80-20 thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, wait, Don, how do you see the money being then given out? Is it just, how do you see it happen?
Well, I'm kind of like with Bob, and to see it allocated through the Social Security problem. But Social Security is low on employees too. It's like the IRS. They gutted them. I have a friend of mine who's the president, who runs Social Security. He said the same thing. They're really shorthanded because they gutted all the employees out. One thing that will be kind of hard to do it with a low workforce. But I like to see the money allocated to people who are in need. You know, once they come up and their needs is taken, and the people who are rich, they can actually say, I can forfeit my money to a family or something like that. So
yeah, but what if that person just decided they didn't want to work at all and they just want the money because that's the way they want to live?
People like that.
Yeah,
there are people like that. You're always going to be like 10% or something. There's always going to be somebody defraudulating the business.
Bob, let me ask you this though: if I'm in some West Kentucky county, I make only $20,000 a year for 40 years. That proportion means I'm going to have a really low Social Security payment by the time I reach 65, right? As opposed to making $100,000 a year, right? So that person may be getting only $1,800 a month from Social Security. Yeah. So then it becomes a cycle of poverty because they can't move anywhere. Hopefully they can put up with increase in rents, increase in gas and food. So it gets, if you don't get out of that cycle, it can really be limiting later on in life.
Yeah, and as Larry was talking about, a home is a big part of that cycle. I know that's why there's a lot of discussion going on right now. How do we improve home ownership? But, you know, a lot depends on, again, how people spend in their lives. I mean, there's no question. If you spend
Right.
everything you're making, you are not going to have a good retirement. That's all there is to it. Joe Boy, you've been quiet.
Okay, if you want to redistribute this, if that's really what's going to happen, let's go ahead and redistribute it, and not to the benefit the people that actually earned it. Great. Redistribute it only one way. Teaching people how to spend their money wisely so they don't need it in the first place. Here's how to use it right. Here's how to do it the right way. And stop telling me, oh, I decided not to work and therefore I don't have any money. You didn't work. You don't get the money if you don't put it in.
What happens if your only job is a coal mine and you don't want to work in the coal mines?
Right.
What
do you
happens
do
if
then?
it ends up being an 80-year-old guy who ends up getting ripped off by some internet scam, but hey, I had a bunch of money before, now I don't. Help me. Oh, well, too bad for me because I made money when I was there and I was just dumb. I'm sorry, it doesn't work.
The difference in our arguments is all comes down to individual responsibility. How much of it
Right.
before the government kicks their 2 cents in to help a person that didn't make it.
Almost the ultimate, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah, if you want to help the poor, give the money to the poor. If you're a wealthy person who wants to help the underprivileged, they can do it any way they want. They can do it through charities, they can do it through the government. But why would you tell the Social Security Administration, who's really good at taking your money, to all of a sudden, let's start giving it? And yes, they do distribute it out and all that, but they are understaffed. You want to have them determine who gets it? Come on.
yeah.
Let
Well,
people, if they want to voluntarily do it, let them voluntarily do it now. They have the capability of doing it now. Go find poor people, give them money, and see if it helps.
We could do it based on people that are willing to be a panelist on Third Side Convo could get some of that.
right. Exactly.
Bob,
Exactly.
did we do a UBI one a long time ago?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
We actually have. We did that in the testing period. Yep.
I thought so.
That'd be a
think
good
that's
one to
what-
bring back.
That would be a good
Universal
one to
basic
bring back
income
now.
one. I think I'm trying to remember who actually a politician who will
did.
not be named. Right?
No,
Will
I
not be
thought
named.
right, but I thought I brought it up, and even though I'm on the Republican side, and nobody would think that I'd give money to people, I'm very much in favor of UBI for a lot of the reasons that what's his name running for president that I can't name even if I could think of it. So I would like to do a show on UBI, and I think that's a good place to figure out, people where people stand on giving money away.
Joe Boy.
Yeah, I hear you.
Joe,
Do you go to church?
I have gone to church, but I don't
Do you
think
go
you
regularly?
have to go to a building, go rah rah rah. Here's my money to be a good person and have a good relationship with God. And
That's what I'm saying.
Unfortunately,
It's
church has
just-
turned into a business.
Absolutely. That's what I'm. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's a voluntary action. It's a voluntary action. That's all I'm saying. And I think that is again what I'm
So
talking about
why do we need the
is
government to do it? Why do we need the government to help?
absolutely. I'm not saying you need the government.
You
It
can write
probably
Elon
will
Musk
be
and
the
say, "Please give
government.
your money away." He might.
The problem, guys, is it's not a question of the government helping. We're already past that politically. The government will help, and that's why we're in the situation
They'll
we're
help
in.
themselves.
well, the government's trying to taking the money on purpose, just trying to eliminate total chaos and everything like that. We're gonna control a little bit of it, but when something happens, we can't get everybody. So we have to have some kind of safety nets, and that's exactly what it is. It's sort of like a safety
Well,
net.
there's a safety net
Uncle
for
Sam has
everything. There's a safety
Their
net for
safety net is they
earthquakes,
just
for
hope you
hurricanes.
die. If you're old, they just want you to die.
Right, but I'm
That's why you
saying
help the
safety net
government.
for society to collapse. If people don't got enough money and people have like that, just looking out for people. That's what.
Bingo.
That's the original. That's the
Yep.
original. The original idea for Social Security was to actually help people out and help.
Elderly and the ill. That's right. When they're older
Exactly.
age. Yeah.
That was the original plan for it,
But
but it just got out of hand.
Politically, guys, it's gotten out of hand, and we're not going to put the genie back.
Right.
That's why, in one sentence, I'll do UBI. Give everybody the money, including billionaires, $1,000 a month, whatever it is, and get rid of government on all the other welfare schemes, and let people make their own choice. If they want to spend that $1,000 shooting up drugs and die of starvation in that month, that's
Well, that's
their
gonna-
decision.
That's
Milk
you're gonna
used
put
to
the
go to
homeless people on the
$200
streets.
a gallon.
Right.
Yay.
Let me tell you a story of how.
No, I
well-
can't.
out of
Ted, we
time.
don't have time for a story. You're going to have to put
No
it in an
story.
email or throw it on the site. Again, we can talk about things that they just can't talk about. All right? Nobody's coming after us. This is pretty good. You know, we realize something has to be done, you know, guys. And let's talk about it. And let's look in the future. Let's do some more on income inequality. There's all sorts of places we can go with this discussion. Thank you very much, Ted. Again, subscribe, like, enjoy the videos, and we will see you on the next version of Third Side Convo.